Well, how are we all doing today, everyone? This is Evan Uno, and after seeing all these fancy schmancy tier lists, I thought that I would go ahead and make my own. So, here is the official, not official, Ash Ketchum's Pokemon tier list! Yeah! Now, as you can see, I have pretty much all of his Pokemon, even ones he's only temporarily had or even released. I think this evens out to about, I want to say 47. I'm just going to go out on a limb there. Maybe there's one missing that he very briefly owned and it never really battled, but I tried to get everyone, and I used my good friends over at the Bulbapedia resources, as you can see. See, all of his Pokemon here. Yeah. Now, this list was provided by the Palatown Backroom, which is totally a real thing. It's Delia, Tracy Sketchup, Professor Oak, just studying which of Ash's Pokemon are the best, no big deal. And without further ado, here we go! Alright, so Apom I think is kind of tough because she didn't get to battle for all that long. She was only in the first part of Diamond and Pearl and the last part of Advanced Generation, and even then she didn't really battle. And then of course Ash traded her for Dawn's Weasel. So I remember her having a good win or two in some of the Sinnoh fights, so I guess we'll place her in C tier. And now Bayleaf, this one's going to be kind of tough because I personally love Ash's Bayleaf. But I think it's going to be in more of the D tier, because I think one thing that really justifies that is it had a kind of slow start, I guess you could say. Didn't have very many wins as a Chikorita, but kind of pulled it around when it became a Bayleaf. It defeated all of Chuck's Pokemon, so that's pretty good. And Boulder, that's one of the Pokemon that I wonder, why'd you even catch this, Ash? You barely did anything with it. I think he's got to go in the E tier. I think he only has one real win under his belt, which is not good. Alright, and I think Weasel is going to join the side of Bayleaf, because it was sort of an up or down whether he won or not. I know that he tied with Maylene's Lucario, and he came in clutch for the battle against Paul at the Sinnoh League, defeated the Gastrodon, and did some damage to Drapion before falling. But, yeah, I'd say that D tier is pretty good. Alright, who do we have next? Oh, Bulbasaur, the boy. Even though he's little, even though he's not evolved, I think he's easily one of Ash's most reliable Pokemon. Had a lot of great wins against Brandon, had countless good wins in the, Kanto region. Was a surprise comeback for Johto region. I just think Bulbasaur all around is one of his most reliable Pokemon. Definitely. Now, Butterfree is kind of a tough choice because, of course, Ash didn't have him for very long. I'd have to say F here, because I can't remember her or him winning very many battles, because Ash only gave him up after Lieutenant Surge, which is rip Butterfree, she's probably dead by now. Anyway, Charizard, your boy's got to go in the S tier. Charizard is an undisputed champion. Even though things got rocky when he first became a Charizard because of the whole disobedience, he still beat out a lot of good wins, like Magmar was a good turning point for the Orange Islands because he finally learned to obey Ash. And of course, he was rocking that Johto League. He had the 3 wins under his belt against Gary. Almost beat Harrison's Blaziken, which, honestly, that was a pretty good fight, even though it was very drawn out. Good big hitter in the Advanced Generation arc. Very first Pokemon of Ash's to defeat a Legendary with Articuno. After that, we haven't seen as much of him since, after Advanced Generation. I know he came back for Best Wishes, but he barely battled. What's that all about? Alright, next up we have Corphish. Now, Corphish I would personally place in C tier. I know it's a kind of close one. I was debating between Corphish and Squirtle, bouncing on between B tier and C tier, but I think that Squirtle, being around longer, has had a few more wins, has been a bit more reliable, but that does not put Corphish at any sort of disadvantage. He did very well in the Hoenn League and had a few surprise wins in Battle Frontier. Alright, so Donphan I'm going to have to place in D tier. Unfortunately, it never really got much action until the Johto League, and that was only really for one battle. And then he came back for Battle Frontier, evolved into Donphan, of course, Fampi to Donphan, and he only really ever won one battle, and that was against Lucy Seviper. I don't typically count a lot of the Team Rocket battles as, truly official, because, hey, they're Team Rocket battles. And Sinnoh, he only fought against one trainer, Conway. Didn't do very well, so, fortunately, Donphan, my boy, you gotta go into D tier. Now, Gibble, on the other hand, Despite how little Ash had him for the time in Sinnoh, he did a pretty good job. He took out 2/3 of Conway's team, and this man was able to get a hit on Tobias's Darkrai. You don't just get a hit on that Darkrai. Literally just rock smash to the stomach. Ooh. Ooh. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. 2 out of 3 ain't bad at all. Now, Glalie, I think, is another one of, even though he got it late, Ash got it late, that definitely belongs in A tier because of the battles he won. He won pretty much at least one of every battle in his run in the Hoenn League, coming out with some surprise hitters. And, like, especially against the Khulafa and the Charizard. And he was able to tie against Tyson's Sceptile. But that's not bad, even though he had the type advantage, that Sceptile was pretty strong. I'd definitely say he's up there. Now, Goodra is a case of, I think, how the mighty have fallen, because before Ash released Goodra back to his swamp, Goodra had, like, a perfect win record. It won against Tierno, and it also won against Clement. It didn't faint once. But then come the Kalos League. First battle back is a tie. Second battle, which was against Alon, loss. So it sucks that when Goodra came back, she didn't get, like, an official win, per se. That kind of sucks. And here we go. Here's my boy Greninja. You, my friend, are getting the S tier. Now, the S tier is obviously going to be among Ash's strongest Pokemon. No ifs, ands, or buts. Even without Ash Greninja Battle Bond, I think Greninja was pretty good. I easily think that he is the best of Ash's water types, and especially when you consider that as a Frogadier, he had a perfect win record out of all the battles he participated in. That's a pretty good Pokemon right there. Hawlucha, I would probably place in the B tier, because I think that even though his win streak was pretty consistent, it was like the win-loss ratio, I'd say, was pretty consistent. I would say that he didn't have any, like, super embarrassing losses where he immediately gets smacked. So I think that's a big thing that helps shape it. And speaking of B tier, Heracross is one. I think that Heracross is probably Ash's strongest Johto Pokemon, because I feel like because Gen 1 kind of took precedence during the Gen 2 era still, because like Charizard and Bulbasaur and Squirtles were still there at points, Heracross was Ash's real power hitter in Johto. Like, the league battles are when he was mainly seen, and he did a pretty good job taking out Gary's Magmar. Whew. And then his pretty good performance in the Sinnoh League, even though he didn't, like, have the best, like, little comeback in Battle Frontier, unfortunately. He had to be the fall guy. But, you know, I still think Heracross did pretty well. What's that, boys? Do I smell another S tier? Oh, do I ever. Infernape, welcome to S tier. Where do you even begin with Infernape? As a Chimchar, it was incredibly resilient, and from gym badges 5 through 8, Chimchar was always a part of them. Or, like, I guess you could say Infernape in this case. Chimchar, then Monferno, then Infernape, of course, but in all of those battles, Infernape was able to defeat at least 2 Pokemon. That was the case. Even before he went down, Infernape was a beast, and do I even need to tell you about Sinnoh League? Hey, Paul, you mind if I just take 3 of your Pokemon out? All by myself, pretty much? Kind of? Sort of? Infernape is just legendary. Now, Kingler, I feel, is an interesting case, Kingler here, because he was really good when he first evolved, even though he had never had a battle prior to the Kanto League. My problem with Kingler is that we haven't seen him battle really since Johto. We haven't seen him battle since 2002, but when he was in the Kanto League, he just boom, 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 took out a trainer's Pokemon, all 3 of them. And then he still had enough energy in round 2 to knock out a Cloyster, but not an Arcanine. But you know, it's okay, you know, Kingler probably just used up all of his energy. Kingler's a good boy. I'm about him. I'm sorry, we gotta go back to the S tiers with my boy Krookodile, easily Ash's best Unova Pokemon. And considering Ash's Unova team, that says a lot. I'm sorry, it's just, that's the way it is. Now, unfortunately, Lapras, again, I love her, but I gotta put her on S tier. She didn't have much battle experience, and the most that she had was battling, Drake, I think it was? Yeah, Drake, in the Orange Islands, and she tied against his Gengar. So that's a bit of a shame. Leafany, I'd probably say is C tier. You know, he was a pretty good battle against Berg. He had some luck with the 8th gym leader, who, Roxy was a mess, let me tell you. Like, you didn't think Leafany would be able to do well against poison types, but here she is. Now, Lycanroc and Meltan, I'm going to save them for the end, but Muck, Muck is definitely E tier. I kind of understand what they were trying to do with Muck, just have the, comic relief Pokemon. But the only Pokemon that he's ever battled against is a Bellsprout. And it technically wasn't even an attack. It was just, oh, Muck suffocated that thing. And then he didn't do very well in the battle against Gary in the Silver Conference. So, E tier for you, boy. Now you see, my friend Noctowl is unfortunately going to have to be a D. I hate how so many of Ash's Johto Pokemon, I feel, are on the lower end of the spectrum because they just didn't get much screen time in terms of battles, and I felt like some of them had to typically be fall guys in order to hype somebody else up. Noctowl, I say, was alright because he was pretty good against Morty, and I think he had a couple of league wins in the Johto League, and I know he had the one win against Conway's Licky Licky in the Sinnoh League, but again, we haven't seen him battle since. I feel like if Noctowl had a little bit more potential, he could maybe bump his way up to C tier, but I think that's about it. Even though he's a shiny boy, yeah, he's not the best. Speaking of Pokemon with somewhat missed potential, Noivern. I think Ash evolved Noibat and Noivern a bit too late in the series because by the time he evolved in X, Y, and Z, of course that was the whole Ash Greninja thing, which I understand, but I feel like you could have given Noivern at least one more win. First battle against Alonzo Matang, unfortunately didn't go too well, and then the only real thing that Noivern had after that was the Kalos League, which he did tie with a Salamence, but then he lost to a Weavile, so I think Noivern has a lot of untapped potential. He's not like completely weak, like say Muck. Now, getting on to Oshawott, that is what I call F Stinky Dookie tier. The epitome of maybe one good win, and that was mainly for plot relevance and stuff, and then afterwards just fell off, kind of became Ash's comic relief, which I was upset about, because I thought Oshawott could have been a real hard hitter, Now Palpitoad. Palpitoad once again falls in the camp of, why are you here? I don't understand. This is the problem I had with Black and White. Ash was just catching Pokemon left and right, and it feels like they weren't able to develop a lot of them. If you weren't Pignite, or Krookodile, or the occasional maybe Oshawott, then you got no love. Palpitoad only really has one win under his belt, and a tie, but that's about it. Pidgeot. I'm gonna throw you a bone here, and I guess I'll place you in not the worst, because, again, a lot of the battles in Generation 1 were usually interrupted by Team Rocket or for other things, and I feel like Pidgeotto didn't have very many wins. The only one that comes like straight off to mind that was a more official battle was the battle against Misty way back when. That's the only like real definitive win I think he has. Now, Pignite, I'm going to put in C tier, not the worst of Ash's Fire-type Pokemon, but I think it leaves a fair bit to be desired. It had a pretty good run in the Unova League, defeated 2 of Cameron's Pokemon. Then again, that's Cameron. Now, Pikachu. Oh boy. Now, of course, this is Peek-a-Chew that we're talking about here, like P-E-A-K, like at its absolute best. Are we not going to talk about the guy who tied with a Latios, who defeated a Regice, who took out, once again, 2 of Cameron's Pokemon in the Unova League, which, honestly, Unova was Pikachu's worst region, in my opinion, and then takes out a Tyranitar and a Metagross, all on his own, in the Kalos League. This is Peek-a-Chew performance. This is the ideal Pikachu body. Primeape, I'm unfortunately going to have to put in F tier because, again, he didn't really battle. He was only here for about 3 or 4 episodes. Given to a guy for training, never heard from again. Which is an orange shame, really. Now, our boy Khulafa, I'd say he's kind of in the lesser tier. Now, that's a shame because I think that Cyndaquil was a really good fighter because he was able to take out Jasmine's Steelix back in Johto. But after that, they just didn't give him much attention in the Johto League. And of course, he wouldn't fight again until the Sinnoh League where he evolved into Khulafa. But the most we saw of him was him tying against an Armaldo. So, not much there. Now, I think we're going to have one more boy for another boy for the S tier league. It's my boy, it's Grassman Sceptile. Now, Sceptile didn't necessarily have the best start. He kind of took quite a few falls as a Trico, and even some as a Grovyle, unfortunately. But when this boy became a Sceptile, after that redemption arc of him trying to get rejected and stuff, well, not trying to get rejected, he literally got just rejected by that Meganium. He was able to overcome that rejection and became so good. Took out 2 of one of the Frontier Brains Pokemon. I can't remember his name right now, unfortunately, and I know that's really bad. And then the Darkrai. oh god, this was the only Pokemon that was able to stop Tobias's Darkrai. How do you not... That's amazing! He was literally the only Pokemon in that region to defeat this trainer's Darkrai. I can't stop gushing over it, I'm sorry. Oh wow, we are almost done. Well, kind of almost done. Now, Scraggy, again, I'm gonna have to put in, like, Stinky Dookie tier. Honestly, that's just me. I'm really sorry about that. He just didn't have much attention, and I really hope that he would have evolved, because I think that Scrafty kind of suits Ash's style. It's just, I feel, once again, Scraggy was there for comic relief. I feel that Ash shouldn't have more than one, like, sort of comic relief joke Pokemon. It just sort of takes away from their battling potential, and Scraggy only had, like, 1 or 2 wins. Everything else was he either didn't participate, or he had to be a fall guy, but that's just me. Now, Snivy, I think, is among Ash's worst grass types, because, again, not very many wins, wasn't shown off very much, even though I feel like she had potential for at least a decent story, because she was abandoned by her trainers, or not abandoned by them, but she ran away from them, because she felt like they weren't good enough for her. So we could have seen an arc where, you know, why did Snivy choose Ash? Like, what did she see in him? Now, Snorlax, I think, is going to go with the big boys, because Snorlax has an interesting distinction. Whenever Snorlax has ever battled, he has taken out at least one Pokemon before he falls. So, even if he does fall in a battle, like he's not sort of the main winner, he always makes sure to take a victim with him. You're going to hell with me. And I think that's pretty epic. Squirtle is easily a B tier. To be honest, I don't think he's as reliable as Bulbasaur, because I think that, in general, Bulbasaur traveled for a fair bit longer with Ash than Squirtle did. And he's just sort of like, you know, Bulbasaur is one of the ones that Ash constantly goes back to when he's visiting Palatown or whatever. He's like, hey, Bulbasaur! It's always that one. And I know it's because Squirtle's with the Squirtle Squad, but still, I think that Squirtle doesn't have as many wins, and he wasn't brought back as well for certain leagues and stuff. But that's just me. Again, you are free to disagree with this tier list and whatnot. Now, Staraptor, I think, would also go in the C tier with these boys, because even though he was a pretty good Pokemon for the most part, C tier isn't, like, automatically bad or, like, mediocre. I think that Staraptor kind of started falling off towards the end. Again, to hype up Infernape and other things. Now, Swellow is a killing machine. This thing was a demon in the Hoenn League, and it also did pretty well in the Battle Frontier. It also did pretty well, too, as a Taillow, had a good, really few gym wins under his belt. Honestly, among Ash's best flying types, I think that out of the regional birds, Swellow is the best. Talonflame, I think, is going to join his friend Hawlucha and the rest of the B tier gang, because again, win-to-loss ratio is pretty good, but at the same time, a lot of the times he would participate in a battle, he would try to take a victim out beforehand. It sounds really mean, like he would take a victim out with his cold, bloody beak. But Talonflame always usually put up a pretty good fight. Tauros, I'd say, goes in C tier, because I know that he's still sort of the comic relief Pokemon, like he's always running over Ash every time Ash comes back to visit. But I think that there are a few fights that shows us he can battle, like against Drake's Venusaur and Annabelle's Metagross. This thing's capable of a lot. Now, Torkoal, I think, is personally Ash's worst fire type. Didn't get very much love, maybe only got 1 or 2 good wins, and just always felt like it was slacking behind. I understand if they wanted to make him more of a crybaby, but I don't know. I feel like they could have just done more with him and not had him be not as unreliable. Now, I think that this next choice is going to be a bit controversial. Torterra B tier, but let me explain myself. Torterra had a decent enough start as a Turtwig, and it had a lot of untapped potential. Even as Grotle, when it evolved, lost its speed, and maybe only won 1 official battle, I think that Grotle was still able to take a lot of hits, and I think that its defensive capabilities are a good thing. Torterra, I feel, of course, got the shit end of the stick, because they wanted to hype up Infernape, and, like, Torterra, I guess, was just such a good fall guy. You know, I think that Torterra has a lot of strong moves, and I feel like if the time is right, he could come back and he could kick some real butt. Now, unfortunately, I hate to do a sturdy like this, but we gotta go over some of the worst ones, like the last worst ones. Unfezant. Trash. Utter trash. Why did they make her lose to Riolu? Why does she only have, like, 1, maybe 2 good fights? she's supposed to be one of the few of the Unova team that's fully evolved. Why was she so bad towards the end? I don't know. And again, I think that I would rank Totodile in sort of the, I guess, F tier. I don't remember him having too many wins. It's just sort of, once again, the comic relief Pokemon, which, again, is not the worst thing in the world. But I don't know. Now, this last part is going to be a bit tricky for me because, as you can see, we have Ash's Sun and Moon Pokemon. And this team is, of course, not final. We have the rest of Sun and Moon for, like, the rest of the year. But looking at their win ratios over on Cerebi.net's forums, I think I can come up with a pretty good idea of where they'd rank. Okay, so I'm recording this on May 16th, 2019. So as of right now in Sun and Moon, Rowlet has 6 wins and 2 losses. So, I'd place him currently in C tier, I guess? Because for the first 2 Grand Trials, Rowlet technically didn't lose because of an opponent's Pokemon. In the battle against Hala, he fell asleep, and in the battle against Olivia, because Rockruff was so, like, energetic, like, so out of control, he bit Rowlet, and Rowlet was like, I'm out, bro! So I think that Rowlet has a pretty good win record, but I think its lethargicness is sort of what holds back a bit. As of right now, I'm inclined to place Lycanroc in the A tier, because even though he does have 3 losses against his 5 wins, you gotta remember what those wins are, because in the battle against Nanu, like the true Grand Trial against him, he had to do 1 versus 3, so take out 3 of Nanu's Pokemon. He was able to take out all of them, and I think he's Ash's, like, definitive powerhouse for Sun and Moon. So right now, I'd sit Torracat at about B tier, because he's only lost 1 battle against Incineroar, the Masked Royals one, and both of the double battles that he's participated in, he's helped win. So right now, I'd say Torracat's really good, and it depends if he evolves into an Incineroar himself. Who knows? Metal Nut! Metal Nut! Now, currently, Metal Nut's only been in 1 battle, or Meltan, so it was a double battle against a Zweilous and a Druddigon, so right now, I'd pair him with Rowlet, because again, we haven't seen his true battling potential, but it depends, you know, if he evolves into Melmetal and whatnot. I think that Meltan could be a secret hitter, you know? Got some pretty good attacks, won his first, like, set of battles. Pretty good guy. Well, hey guys, this is Evan from the future, and I'm an idiot because I forgot Gliscor! However, there's no need to fret because I would personally place Gliscor on the A tier. The reason I say this is because Gliscor had that big surprise win at the Sinnoh League where he destroyed Paul's Killer's Rapion that knocked out 3 of Ash's Pokemon. That thing was the hero we needed. It's the hero we deserved. So yeah, Gliscor A tier. Back to the video. Alright, so this is the completed Ash Ketchum tier list. We have Stinky Dookies. We have relatively bad. We have but needs improvement. We have good, we have great, we have the incredibly awesomes, and we have the absolute legends. So I think that's going to cover it for today. I really hope you enjoyed my impromptu Ash Ketchum's Pokemon tier list. This is Evan Uno, and have an excellent, ultra awesome day.